Napoli beat Juve 2-1, and it's a real statement win for the Partenopei. Beating Juventus, of course, means a lot to everybody, but it means a little bit more if you're from Napoli.
Absolutely, just the symbolicness and the whole north and south divide, it's still strong today. So for the Partenopei to get a win against the Juventus, this just would mean more than defeating any other northern Italian side, and especially the most successful Serie A team in history. So it really is one to be proud of. It was a game that the Partenopei dominated, even though they were trailing early on through that goal by Alvaro Morata. They just had a lot more of the possession, and in the second half, I noticed a lot more. They looked more composed on the ball and had far more determination to get the 3 points.
It was a completely deserved 3 points, though, from Napoli, right? Juve were doing quite a classical everything early on, but it just wasn't enough. And Napoli, Vito, were deserving of the win.
Most certainly, because with the skills on the ball they had, the way they were linking up. I think the players that Napoli have really suits Spalletti's style of coaching in comparison to what he had to work with Inter. Inter were perhaps a bit more mechanical on the eye, and he had to build his attack around Icardi. This time, you can see, from the goalkeeper to the defense, midfield, and attack. There aren't many weak spots in that team. We could go on about that, but the way that team is, I mean, you've got Ruiz controlling the midfield, Anguissa, who's a debutant, he played well. So in midfield, they've got those parts. Look, Insigne wasn't at his very best, but he still had a good performance, still serviceable. And also in the second half, well, Spalletti had to make some changes at half time. And I think that also made an impact too. That made them a bit more unpredictable, and instead, and also with Osimhen not getting much of a chance on goal, it was important that the other players stepped up. Especially if you look at the equaliser, Politano just sneaking around the back there, shrugging off Rabiot and getting the ball in from a tight angle, despite Szczesny trying in vain to catch the ball. Sometimes, if one player's not going to score in, it's always good to have other contributors making the difference.
I was quite impressed by Anguissa's performance, to be honest. On a debut to play like that, I thought was very noteworthy. And he's not a player that I know all that much about. I don't watch all that much Premier League football, to be perfectly honest with you. But the guy who, as he tends to when this fixture comes around, stole the show was Kalidou Koulibaly. I don't know what it is about this game, but he loves decisive goals, whether it's for Juventus or for Napoli.
Yeah, you think he's known for his sort of defensive solidity and becoming that sort of focal point of the Napoli defence over the last few years. But when he sort of pops up with a goal, they just always tend to be against Juve, whether it was 2018 when it looked like it was going to maybe lead Napoli to the title, which was not to be, or the late own goal a couple of years later. Um, I would have liked to have seen if he could have just kind of not touched the ball and sort of see if it would backspin back in, because it would have made for a phenomenal own goal from Moise Ken. But yeah, he's just got something about this fixture, and it's one of those where typically a bit in Higuain fashion, you'd think, oh, he'll run his contract down and end up at Juve scoring goals to them, but hopefully not. But yeah, it was perfect for the big man to sort of step up and tap the ball home for the winner.
Koulibaly wouldn't do that, surely. Surely
I'd,
not.
I know I'd be surprised. He seems to have a little bit more, about him than maybe our friend Gonzalo.
That's a bit harsh, and given the fact that you've called me Gonzalo countless times, I'm going to take that as a personal attack. So thanks very much, Kev. We do have a question. We will get to more questions a little bit later on from our patrons, but just to start, because it's relevant to this game, Marco Jackson has written in and asked, have Napoli already fatally punctured Juventus' season? Vito, what do you think about that?
It's too early to make a call like that because we're only 3 rounds in, and also if Juve, especially under Allegri, have shown in the past is that even after a bad start, they can finish the season well. As that old saying goes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So in this case, it really is something that's going to take a bit of time. What it does do, this result, is it does set Napoli up pretty well, gives them a bit of momentum, and it's a real confidence boost on their part, especially with Spalletti being in his first season with the club, still trying to get to know the players. They're buying into his ideas quickly, and so far they're playing well. Juventus, I don't think it's more about certain results that are going to be decisive. It's more just over the course of time. When you look at this team, especially when you consider that a lot of the team is getting old, and some of the players that have come in over the years have, let's just be honest, been mediocre at best. And they're really not going to be players that are going to take you over to the next level, help them rebuild for the future. It seems that Ronaldo was really papering over the cracks. At least having a player of his caliber, at least he was scoring the goals. But there were other weaknesses that weren't being addressed properly or sufficiently. So again, with this result, I'll say no. It hasn't punctured the season entirely, but at the moment, it's good for Napoli's momentum, but also bad for Juve's.
Yeah, Kev, well, Vito was talking about the fact that it's early, and it is almost unprecedented for Juventus to be this bad at the start of the season. I mean, in the last 51 years, they have only once failed to win their opening 3 Serie A games. That came, of course, in 2015-16, and the coach then was, of course, Mr. Massimiliano Allegri, and they did, of course, go on to win the title. So do people just need to give it a few more weeks, maybe?
Oh, they definitely need to give it a few more weeks. I think the 2015-16 season was quite different to this one because of just how good that squad was in comparison. Obviously, Vito just made the point about the recruitment that maybe hasn't gone quite as they would have expected. Particularly, I think with picking up young Italian talent, and maybe they've been unfortunate. Maybe they've been a little bit too keen to grab players from other Serie A sides.
Have you done that on purpose?
Not no, because I can't think what I've done, so I've clearly not done it on purpose.
You said they were keen to grab players,
Oh,
and I thought you were going with
I'm
that
still
pronunciation of Moise Ken Keane's
no,
name.
I'm still going by the Ken,
Okay, good.
even if he decided to choose it when he moved to English football for whatever reason. But yeah, no, I think it's far too early in the season at the moment to worry too much about them challenging for the title. I think it is a sign that they will struggle to maintain a total challenge. But at the moment, what is it? 8 points with quick math.
Don't do that.
35 games still to go. I think if they were still 8 points off of whoever's top when half of the season's gone, then yeah, if I was a Juventus fan, I'd be kissing my total hopes goodbye.
The thing is, though, Allegri has chopped and changed quite a lot already this season, and that's maybe I'm misremembering it, but that's not something I would have associated with him before. I mean, as far as personnel and the formation go, he's not really been all that consistent, although some changes this weekend were forced rather than chosen. But is that something that you think should be applauded from Allegri, or is it just quite an obvious sign that he doesn't really know what his best team is at the moment?
I think you can applaud it slightly. When he came in for the first time, he was taking on Antonio Conte's certainly growing, if not already strong, starting 11. I don't think there's any problem with him necessary. I wouldn't see it as a sign that he doesn't know what he's doing necessarily. I think it is certainly a sign that he doesn't know what his best 11 are.
Mm.
I think there's players in the past that he's probably come in and thought, they're nailed down starters, regardless of whatever they show me in training. There's a history of them, performing at such a level that that's the sort of spine of the team, or at least crucial positions in the team are filled, and then he just has to kind of work out which players he wants to either bring in or those that will execute his game plan as he wants it to be executed. And I think probably at the moment he's thinking maybe 7, 8, if not all of them. He really isn't sure about what his best 11 are, just to pick up as many points as they can now from the start to the end of the season, so then they can have maybe a little bit more of a reshuffle during the summer.
Okay, that'll do it for part 1.